Have you ever wondered why some people seem trapped in childhood, even as adults? Why they react with anger when it's unnecessary, avoid responsibility, or refuse to see consequences? Why they cling to habits that hurt themselves and others, as if the world should adjust to them? It feels like choice. But beneath that facade, something deeper drives their actions, something older than reason, quieter than thought, yet profoundly shaping every decision they make. Have you ever noticed how some people, despite being adults in age, seem perpetually trapped in a cycle of childish responses, reacting to situations with impulsivity, defensiveness, or avoidance, as though the world itself should conform to their unmet expectations, as if responsibility and maturity were concepts designed for everyone else, but not for them? It often starts subtly, with small frustrations in childhood, moments when the rules of emotional survival were learned before the conscious mind could even understand them. A sharp tone from a parent, a withheld compliment, a sudden explosion of anger in the house, a disapproving glance that carried more weight than words ever could. And in these fleeting moments, a blueprint was etched deep into the subconscious, forming neural pathways that would guide behavior for decades without conscious consent. The child learned quickly that emotional expression could be dangerous, that vulnerability invited pain, and that hiding true feelings was safer than risking rejection or punishment. And so the patterns began: avoiding confrontation, deflecting responsibility, overreacting when challenged, seeking validation externally rather than internally, and repeating behaviors that had once protected them, even when those behaviors no longer served them. This is the paradox of immaturity in adults. It is often not a lack of intelligence, awareness, or capability, but a manifestation of survival strategies that were developed in early life and reinforced over time, firing automatically in moments of stress, discomfort, or perceived threat. Imagine a young child in a dimly lit room, clutching a toy for comfort while the world feels unpredictable, a mother's voice sharp, her attention fleeting, a father absent in presence if not in body, and the child, without words to articulate the swirling emotions inside, encodes a map of how the world responds to vulnerability, sometimes with care, often with rejection or indifference, and always with consequences that feel disproportionately large. Even as adults, those who struggle with maturity often live under the subtle yet persistent influence of the lessons and patterns that shaped them in childhood, the echoes of experiences long past still guiding the rhythm of their reactions, the texture of their emotions, and the contours of their decisions in ways that are almost invisible until we pay close attention. Imagine a person entering a conversation with a slight edge of defensiveness, words carefully chosen but tempered by caution, a subtle tension running through the body, the shoulders slightly raised, the chest tight, the muscles poised for threat, even when no immediate danger exists, as though the subconscious is signaling, reminding them that vulnerability once meant punishment, disappointment, or neglect, and that being seen, truly seen, was a risk fraught with consequences. In those moments, the adult may believe they are reacting to the present situation, judging it rationally, weighing options consciously, yet beneath the surface, neural circuits trained over decades are firing automatically, guiding responses with the efficiency of a river, cutting through rock, unstoppable, persistent, and deeply ingrained. The same person who might refuse responsibility for a minor error at work may have been a child punished disproportionately for small mistakes, internalizing the lesson that admitting fault invited criticism or anger. And this unconscious mapping is so powerful that even with awareness, the impulse to avoid accountability can surface almost instantaneously, a reflex shaped by time, survival instinct, and the compounding reinforcement of repeated behavior. And yet these adults are not devoid of intelligence, reflection, or insight. Rather, they are caught in the tension between what they know they should do and what the subconscious insists they must do to feel safe, protected, and emotionally intact. This is the paradox of immaturity. It often appears as laziness, irresponsibility, or selfishness, but it is rooted in survival. Consider a person who cannot tolerate criticism, whose defenses rise at even the gentlest suggestion that they might be wrong. To an observer, this may seem petulant or unreasonable, yet if we trace the behavior backward, we often find early experiences in which error was met with disproportionate punishment, ridicule, or withdrawal of affection, forming the neural groundwork for a defensive reflex that has been rehearsed countless times, each repetition reinforcing the pathways that bypass conscious reflection in favor of automatic protection. Over the years, these patterns become layered and complex, intertwined with social experiences, peer feedback, cultural conditioning, and learned associations, creating a sophisticated system of responses that can appear irrational or immature, but are, in truth, highly functional for emotional preservation, a system that minimizes perceived threats and maximizes a sense of safety, even if at the cost of social harmony, personal growth, or authentic engagement. The adult who avoids responsibility, lashes out at minor provocations, or seeks constant reassurance is, in effect, navigating life with the same internal rules that kept the child safe, rules encoded long before conscious thought could intervene, reinforced over decades by repetition, habit, and subconscious validation of the effectiveness of these strategies for survival. And yet, beneath these layers, there often exists a quiet longing for change, a subtle awareness that the reactions are disproportionate, that relationships suffer, that personal goals are hindered, that life could be different if only they could act with intention rather than reflex. This is the point at which growth becomes possible, when the adult begins to notice the automatic patterns, to pause between impulse and action, to create space for reflection where previously there was only reaction. Awareness itself is transformative, a light illuminating the architecture of habit, revealing the neural circuits, emotional imprints, and subconscious scripts that have been guiding behavior silently for decades. Once illuminated, these scripts can be engaged with deliberately, challenged, and reshaped. Mindfulness, reflective practice, therapy, and conscious repetition of alternative responses begin to weaken the dominance of old patterns, gradually strengthening new neural pathways that support emotional regulation, mature decision-making, and authentic engagement with the world. The metaphor of the river remains apt. The currents shaped over time may be powerful, automatic, and relentless, yet with patient observation, gentle intervention, and deliberate practice, they can be guided toward new courses, new expressions of self, and new ways of engaging with the world. And so, as we consider adults who cannot act maturely, we are called not to condemnation, but to insight, to reflection, to the recognition that beneath every impulsive word, every defensive gesture, every avoidance of responsibility, lies a story, a history, a network of experiences, emotions, and learned behaviors that can be understood, addressed, and ultimately transformed. In the heart of this understanding lies a profound truth, that immaturity is less a moral failing than a living testament to the resilience of the mind, a record of adaptation, survival, and subconscious guidance, and that with awareness, effort, and compassion, these patterns can be reshaped, allowing for the emergence of authentic maturity, a version of adulthood that is not reactive, defensive, or avoidance-driven, but deliberate, reflective, and integrated, where emotional intelligence, insight, and conscious choice converge to guide action in ways that serve both the individual and their relationships, creating a life marked not by the unconscious repetitions of survival, but by the thoughtful engagement of a fully integrated self. And in this unfolding, the adult who once struggled with immaturity begins to experience freedom. Freedom from automatic reactivity, freedom from the hidden chains of past lessons, freedom to engage authentically, responsively, and intentionally with the world around them. And in that freedom, maturity is revealed not as an external milestone, but as the internal harmonization of past, present, and potential, a continuous process of growth, understanding, and transformation that reshapes the architecture of mind, heart, and behavior, creating the conditions for a life lived consciously, fully, and with purpose. It is within this space that true understanding emerges, where compassion for oneself and for others intersects with deliberate practice, where the patterns of childhood are acknowledged, the whispers of the subconscious are heard, and the adult mind learns to navigate life with clarity, resilience, and authenticity, transforming the echoes of survival into the music of deliberate, thoughtful action, and revealing that the journey from immaturity to maturity is not a single step but a lifelong process, one in which awareness, insight, and choice continuously reshape the self, allowing for deeper connection, richer experiences, and a profound alignment between who we were, who we are, and who we have the potential to become. As the journey of understanding continues, it becomes clear that adults who struggle to act with maturity are navigating a world shaped not only by present circumstances, but by decades of internalized lessons, subconscious scripts, and deeply ingrained emotional patterns. A complex landscape where survival instincts, learned behaviors, and unresolved early experiences intersect in ways that are often invisible to the conscious mind, yet profoundly shape every choice, reaction, and interaction. In observing such individuals, it becomes evident that what may appear externally as immaturity, avoiding responsibility, lashing out, deflecting, seeking validation, or acting impulsively, is in fact the intricate choreography of a mind conditioned for protection, honed over years to preserve safety and minimize threat, and only secondarily concerned with social expectations or rational logic. The behaviors that are judged harshly by others are in truth adaptive mechanisms, responses honed in response to perceived danger, rejection, or instability in formative years, now replaying automatically in adulthood, often without conscious awareness. Consider the person who struggles to maintain long-term relationships, repeatedly choosing partners who reflect the emotional dynamics of their childhood, mirroring unhealed wounds, recreating familiar patterns of neglect or inconsistency, not because of poor judgment or malice, but because the subconscious is seeking resolution for early experiences, attempting to repair, recreate, and ultimately understand the lessons that shaped their emotional architecture. Similarly, the adult who avoids confrontation or accountability may have once learned that expressing disagreement or admitting error invited punishment, shame, or withdrawal of affection, and the mind, prioritizing survival over learning, continues to respond reflexively in ways that protect, even if they hinder growth. Neuroscience provides a window into this process. The amygdala responds to perceived threats before the prefrontal cortex has time to reason. Habitual neural circuits in the basal ganglia fire automatically in response to familiar emotional triggers. The hippocampus archives emotional memory, connecting present events with past experiences, creating a seamless but often subconscious guide for action that bypasses deliberation, judgment, or conscious intention. And yet, within these automatic responses, there is the persistent potential for transformation. Awareness is the key, the bridge between unconscious pattern and conscious choice, allowing the adult to recognize the subtle triggers, the habitual responses, and the historical echoes that shape behavior. With sustained reflection, mindfulness, and practice, these automatic pathways can be rewired, enabling the adult to respond intentionally rather than react reflexively, to choose authenticity over protection, and to cultivate patterns of behavior that reflect understanding rather than survival. It is a gradual process, often imperceptible in the moment, but cumulative over time, as repeated conscious action strengthens new neural pathways, reduces the dominance of fear-based reflexes, and integrates the subconscious with the conscious mind, allowing the individual to inhabit the full spectrum of emotional experience without being controlled by old survival scripts. Compassion, both toward oneself and others, is essential in this journey, recognizing that immaturity is not a moral failing, but a reflection of adaptive survival strategies allows for patience, curiosity, and openness in navigating relationships, decisions, and self-perception. In practical terms, this means observing reactions without judgment, pausing before responding, reflecting on the origin of emotions, and experimenting with alternative behaviors, all while understanding that each act of conscious engagement is a step toward reclaiming agency over one's emotional life. Over time, the adult begins to notice the automatic impulses, the tightness in the chest, the urge to deflect, the compulsion to seek external validation, and instead of acting immediately, creates a space to respond differently, a moment of choice that interrupts the old script. The transformation is both internal and external. Internal, as the mind rewires and the emotional landscape shifts. External, as relationships, communication, and life decisions increasingly reflect conscious, intentional action rather than reflexive survival. And in this evolving awareness, maturity is revealed not as the absence of mistakes, impulsivity, or imperfection, but as the presence of reflection, emotional regulation, and intentional engagement. A state in which the adult is neither a prisoner of past experiences nor a slave to the subconscious, but an active participant in the shaping of their life. The adult who once sought constant reassurance now recognizes the sources of insecurity, addresses them with conscious effort, and cultivates self-validation alongside relational connection. The adult who once avoided responsibility develops the courage to engage with accountability, understanding that error does not equal rejection, but opportunity for growth. The adult who once reacted with anger or deflection begins to pause, breathe, and respond in ways that reflect understanding and awareness rather than fear. And yet, this is not a linear path. Moments of regression, reactivation of old patterns, and temporary overwhelm are inevitable, as the subconscious is vast, powerful, and shaped by decades of experience. Patience and persistence are essential, acknowledging that the process of integration, rewiring, and transformation is lifelong, requiring repeated engagement, reflection, and practice, with each conscious act strengthening new pathways while gradually weakening the dominance of old reactive ones. In relationships, this transformation has profound consequences. Communication becomes clearer, empathy more accessible, trust more sustainable, and connections more authentic, as the adult is no longer operating solely from patterns of avoidance, defense, or projection, but from awareness, reflection, and deliberate choice. Professionally, the ability to act with intentionality rather than reflex allows for better decision-making, improved collaboration, and a capacity to navigate challenges with composure, insight, and emotional intelligence, breaking cycles of reactive behavior that may have previously undermined achievement, credibility, or relationships. And internally, the adult experiences a deepening sense of self, a reconciliation between past and present, subconscious and conscious, instinct and intention, resulting in greater resilience, emotional clarity, and psychological coherence, the ability to inhabit life fully rather than being governed unconsciously by the echoes of formative experience. This is the essence of true maturity, not perfection, control, or suppression of instinct, but the integration of the mind's layers, the harmonization of experience, emotion, and intention, and the conscious engagement with patterns that once ran automatically. It is the ongoing work of observation, reflection, practice, and compassion, a continuous dialogue between the adult self and the echoes of childhood experience, where awareness becomes the tool for choice, insight guides action, and the subconscious, once a silent driver of reflexive behavior, becomes a collaborator, providing insight, intuition, and a nuanced understanding of self and others. To witness this transformation, one might imagine a child's nervous system gradually learning that the world is not always threatening, that mistakes are opportunities rather than punishments, that vulnerability is met with care rather than rejection, and that emotional expression can be safe and constructive. These lessons, once absorbed at a subconscious level, form the foundation for adult maturity, allowing the individual to respond with awareness rather than reflex, to engage with others authentically, and to navigate life with intentionality rather than automaticity. And while the journey is challenging, fraught with the resurgence of old patterns, emotional triggers, and the persistence of conditioned responses, it is also profoundly rewarding, revealing the capacity for growth, adaptation, and self-authorship inherent in every human mind. This is the promise of understanding immaturity in adults, not judgment or condemnation, but insight, compassion, and the recognition that beneath every reactive behavior lies a story, a neural pattern, a history of adaptation, and an opportunity for conscious transformation. With consistent awareness, reflection, and deliberate practice, the adult can cultivate emotional intelligence, empathy, accountability, and resilience, integrating the subconscious and conscious mind into a coherent whole, rewriting old scripts and creating a life guided by choice rather than reflex, understanding rather than fear, and presence rather than automatic survival. And so, the narrative of adults who cannot act maturely shifts from one of limitation to one of possibility, from reactive survival to conscious engagement, from unconscious repetition to intentional living, revealing that immaturity is not a fixed state but a dynamic process, an invitation to learn, integrate, and grow, to reconcile past experiences with present action, and to transform the echoes of early life into patterns of deliberate, authentic maturity. In this light, immaturity is reframed. It is not a flaw but a map, a guide to the areas of life where attention, practice, and awareness can create profound change, where patterns of reaction can be replaced with patterns of intentional response, and where the adult, once constrained by subconscious impulses, learns to inhabit their life fully, freely, and with the capacity to navigate complexity with insight, empathy, and resilience. It is here, in the patient work of observation, reflection, and integration, that maturity is forged, not imposed by circumstance or societal expectation, but cultivated from within, a deliberate ongoing process of shaping the self through conscious engagement with the subtle, powerful, and persistent influence of the subconscious mind, turning reflex into awareness, avoidance into courage, impulsivity into choice, and unlocking the potential for authentic, sustainable, and emotionally intelligent adulthood, where the mind, body, and heart operate in harmony, guided by reflection, insight, and intentionality, rather than fear, habit, or automaticity, revealing that the path to maturity is both an internal and external journey, transforming the self and one's world moment by moment, choice by choice, and breath by breath.